Bruce, that was intense. How do you feel about the way it went?
Wing Chun gave me the tools to survive tonight, but it's not complete. Too many fixed shapes, too many habits. Out here.
Show me.
It's Beerdy here. What's going on, guys? Okay, so Bruce Lee versus Wong Jack Man. Oh, baby. The most controversial fight of all time. So we have to go back to the 60s, 1964 to be more specific, and Wong Jack Man challenges Bruce Lee to a fight. The reason is because he doesn't like the fact that Bruce Lee is teaching Westerners the art of Kung Fu. So who do I believe, okay? That's the big question here, because there are a million different versions of what happened. The person that I believe is Bruce Lee's wife, Linda Lee. And why do I believe her version? Because she has no reason to lie, okay? She's gaining nothing to lie about this 50 years later. So I'm gonna base everything on her version of the fight. Now, what happened during the fight? Well, Bruce Lee and Wong Jack Man went at it, and the fight actually lasted for a while. And that's the big thing here. So Bruce Lee didn't like the fact that the fight went on for a long time. He wanted to end the fight instantly, but he couldn't. He simply couldn't finish the fight quickly. And this caused Bruce Lee to totally reevaluate Jeet Kune Do and his own philosophy. Okay? So eventually, Bruce Lee won the fight. He made Wong Jack Man submit and to admit defeat, and the fight was over. And they didn't bother Bruce Lee anymore. He was allowed to teach Westerners at his school, and it was done, you know. But in Bruce Lee's mind, it was not done, because he had to totally reevaluate everything. He didn't like the fact that someone like Wong Jack Man, who is in his eyes was not a especially great martial artist. He was just an average guy, an average martial artist. Bruce Lee didn't like the fact that he struggled to finish the fight. So for the upcoming years, Bruce Lee totally reevaluated Jeet Kune Do. He changed everything in his philosophy to make Jeet Kune Do more explosive, and he succeeded in doing just that. So there you go, guys. Linda Lee's version of what happened is a factual thing that did happen. It's not only her version. A lot of people agree with her. In fact, most people agree with her. There are some people, obviously, that say that Wong Jack Man won the fight, but the majority of the people, including Bruce Lee's wife who was there, all agree that Bruce Lee won the fight, and he won the fight after a long fight.
And he received a challenge from the San Francisco Chinese martial arts community, and the challenge read that Bruce, if he were to be defeated in this challenge, would have to cease teaching Caucasian or non-Chinese students. And the Chinese martial artist came over from San Francisco to Bruce's studio in Oakland, and a very formal challenge took place. I was present there. In fact, I was 8 months pregnant with Brandon, and James Lee was there. And this fight with this Chinese martial artist lasted about 3 minutes. It consisted of a lot of running, where the Chinese martial artist took off and started running around the room, and Bruce was pursuing him before Bruce finally got a hold of him and took him down to the floor and made him give up. And after the challenge ended with the Chinese martial artist being soundly defeated and they all went away, Bruce won the right to teach anyone he wanted to. He was planting the seed always for years prior to even going to Hong Kong, because he knew the producer Fred Weintraub, he knew the executive producer Ted Ashley, knew them well and intimately and on a one-to-one basis as far as teaching martial arts to them. So they were friends and students of Bruce's. So he was involved in every aspect from the very beginning of planning it, doing all the contractual things, making the arrangements for the people to come to Hong Kong for the production and everything, and very much involved in the writing of the script. Of course, there was a script that the first title of which was Blood and Steel, and it underwent numerous revisions by Bruce. He added a great deal of dialogue and scene changes because he knew what he wanted to produce here. And there was reluctance and tug of war going on about exactly how the product would end up, how the script would end up. But Bruce was very insistent, almost to the point of being difficult to work with, because he knew exactly what he wanted and he insisted on what he needed. Not to say he was bullheaded and wouldn't compromise on things. That's not the impression I want to give. The impression I want to give is that he had a goal in mind. He knew what he wanted to communicate, martial arts-wise, philosophically-wise, through this film, and he was very determined to make his dream part of this movie, which I think is another reason why it has endured all these years. So he had a very active part in the writing of the script. He did, of course, choreograph all the fight scenes, and he was the best in the world at doing that. He had a film sense about how things would look on film, and he was exacting with his stunt people and the other actors that were in fight scenes with him. Nobody worked harder on Enter the Dragon than Bruce did. In the Far East, in Hong Kong, they had been making Chinese movies, of course, martial arts movies, for decades, if not longer, for as long as film was being made. So Chinese audiences were very sophisticated on what looked good and very vocal about expressing if they liked a martial arts scene or didn't like it. And so Bruce knew he had a very tough audience out there to please, and he also wanted to introduce it to Western audiences in a way that would set the standard. And I think there is no doubt that he did that. There were a couple of incidents that happened during the filming of Enter the Dragon that perhaps are not evident to the viewer because it's all pieced together nicely. But just for instance, so that you'll know when you see these films on camera, there is a scene where Bruce interacts with a cobra snake. And I don't know personally how he could ever do that, because I could not even be present on the set when this was happening. But and as you'll see in the film, this is a very large, ugly snake. And Bruce has to step on its tail and capture it by the head in order to subdue it. Well, in the finished version, you'll see everything went just fine and smoothly, and he does that with no problem. But that really wasn't the case during the filming. The snake was also somewhat angry because of all the runs he had been put through, and so this snake actually got quite nasty with Bruce and did in fact bite him, and it was painful, however not deadly, because in fact the venom had been removed from this cobra, thank heavens, or the film may never have been finished. So on another occasion, there is a fight scene you'll see in the movie where Bruce is fighting with Bob Wall. And this scene takes place in this vast courtyard with many martial artists dressed in white, which you will recognize in the film. And Bruce and Bob Wall are having this fight where Bob has a broken bottle in his hand. And in Hong Kong, they did not have the kind of breakaway props that they would have had in Hollywood. So this was a real broken glass bottle. And they're having this fight, and they had it carefully choreographed, who does what. And there was a slip-up during the filming of it, and consequently, one person didn't do what they were supposed to do. And consequently, Bruce's hand was severely cut across this tendon between the thumb and the forefinger. And filming had to stop, and it stopped for several days there, and Bruce had to have stitches, and his hand was all bandaged and swollen up. So that did put a stop to the film for a few days there. There was one extra on the set who I guess thought he would just see if Bruce was really a martial artist or was just an actor who was faking it. And he, between takes, when the extras are sitting around, standing around, and Bruce had a little time on his hands, one of these extras was goading Bruce all the time, like teasing him, like saying, you know, you're not any big stuff, I bet you can't do a sidekick, and da-da-da. And normally this kind of thing did not faze Bruce at all, because he had evolved to that stage of being a martial artist that did not need to prove himself to every person that came along issuing a challenge or teasing him or picking on him or anything. So he did not always feel the need to react in the way that the person would be hoping that he would. But on this occasion, and I happened to be there on the set that day, and on this occasion, this kid was trying to show Bruce up and say he was a paper tiger. And Bruce felt that it had reached the point where if he did nothing and said nothing, he would not be able to inspire the rest of the extras to cooperate with him in the fight scenes and do what they needed to do to complete the movie. So he felt he needed to take a leadership role and to show this young man that he was going to have to eat his words. So, but he did it in a nice and playful way, and he called the guy down from where he was sitting up on a wall, throwing jibes at Bruce, and he said, hey, come on down here, you know. So he brought him down, and in the martial arts vernacular, I guess you would say he played with the young man. And he said, you know, they got in a stance, and he said, okay, go ahead, you know, try and throw a kick. Anyway, they had a little back and forth there, and by the time it was over, in about 30 seconds time, the young man was a true believer, and Bruce accomplished this in good nature, did not hurt the young man, but certainly showed him that he was a true martial artist and very skilled and knowledgeable. So everything went smoothly after that. During the filming of Enter the Dragon, I was frequently on the set. Bruce was very open about bringing the family on the set. So I often came to the set, and I brought Brandon, and I brought Shannon. Brandon was 8 years old at that time, and Shannon was 4. And while many martial artists and prospective actors worldwide have been inspired by Bruce's film roles, his most primary student of the martial arts and of acting were his children. Brandon was very influenced by being on the set around Bruce, watching him work. And Bruce was very influential in Brandon deciding that this would be his career. Brandon decided at age 8, I can remember clearly him saying, I am going to be an actor. And now Shannon also, she was only 4 years old, but she is also influenced by that and has made that her career as well. So this was not only in their blood, the urge to perform and to perfect their crafts, not only in their blood, but in their upbringing, because Bruce was a very indulgent father. He shared himself, his career, and his passion with Brandon and with Shannon.